daily.
All right, we are recording. We can start the meeting whenever you're ready, Chair.
All right, let's go ahead and call the meeting to order. It's Tuesday, October 15th, a little after 1:30. My apologies. And we have a roll call, please.
Councilmember Bagby,
Present.
Vice Chair Walter, absent. City Manager Kelly here. Assistant City Manager Kevin here. And we're also joined by our planner, Rafael Miranda, and in the virtual world is our Park Superintendent Hector Galvan.
Welcome, everybody. And I'll go ahead and open up to public comments. Is there anyone in the public who wishes to address the subcommittee on an item that is not listed on today's agenda? All right, seeing that, I'll move on to communications. Council subcommittees may discuss at this time written communications. Do we have any communications, City Manager?
No communication.
All right, move on to approval of minutes. Has everybody had a chance to review the minutes?
We actually don't have any minutes for approval at this one. I'm going to get you two next time.
What, did you say there's no minutes?
There's no minutes on the agenda.
Okay,
Okay.
it's hard to understand.
Yeah, we
Slow down.
let's put on the agenda to get a better microphone for our clerk at his desktop. So we'll move on to E, new business. Parking at 2nd Street Park is item number 1. Who would like to kick us off?
Thank you, Chair. This item was requested by Vice Chair and Vice Mayor Walter. I think in regards to the citizen concerns that were expressed to him, particularly in regards to the future addition of Lido Ranch to the city's park inventory. And then likewise, just in general parking at City Park, it seems to be, the parks getting used more heavily. Right now, we're in the midst of baseball season and girls softball. And we have the new basketball courts. As of today, we're also installing some new bag toss. And there's probably something that we'll need to look at and come up with a plan in terms of parking and how it may be related to the future addition of Lido Ranch again to our park inventory. So I just try to summarize this issue. This one may be one that we want just keep in the parking lot for now and bring back bring back again after staff has that opportunity maybe to review in more detail, summarize the number of parking spaces that are both available in the park itself, but on the street, with some recommendations around maybe some improvements we could do. The on-street parking is, the striping is pretty curated.
What striping?
Yeah. So
If you lived here for 20 years, you know where the structure is supposed to be.
So if it's okay with you, Chair, maybe we'll bring this back with some data and recommendation for some improvements.
Yeah, I think that's really good feedback. Or did you guys have any?
Well, I think Hector wanted to maybe add something to this.
Oh, hi, Kevin. Hi, everyone.
You're under Hector, but go ahead.
Good evening, Councilmember Bagby and staff. Yeah, thank you for the introduction, David. I did had the opportunity to go out there and gather some information. Like David mentioned, we have had some inquiries regarding the parking at the 2nd Street City Park. One of the solutions will be to restripe the existing parking lots and the existing lots along 2nd Street, which is, the portion of the park. I went ahead and got some numbers. If my measurements are correctly, we will be able to accommodate 39 parking spots, including 3 ADA. The current parking lot at the basketball, where near the basketball court, holds about 20 spots plus 1 ADA. This will give us a total of 59 spaces if we were just to simply put a line budget item to restripe the existing infrastructure. I think some of one of the issues there is that since there's currently no striping, giant trucks or bigger trucks just park in the middle there, and sometimes they end up taking 2 or 3 parking spots. So this could just be a simple one of the solutions. Obviously, our parks are getting very popular, and we have a lot of visitors and on a daily basis. But striping the existing infrastructure will definitely be one of the solutions, I think.
That's a great idea. That was actually going to be my first question is what's the inventory now if we kind of fix it up? But I think that's got to be looked at as phase one. I mean, on those tours of the lighter property, I mean, Hector was on some of those. That was one of the things that came up is that we already have kind of a master plan for City Park. And with and of course, the addition of light out was done, that master plan was done before there was, even on the board, even a gleam in our eye.
Yes.
Well, I think that long-term, what should ultimately come back to this subcommittee and ultimately come back to council for consideration is a longer-term plan for that area, in addition to maybe some wayfinding and planning. So if we have visitors, we're guiding them from, charging stations, we're guiding them from the city parking lot, because if they're there to hike Lida, asking them to park downtown at the city parking place, that's not too much to ask. I don't think it's not that far. I mean, it's just
Right.
a turn. So that may just need to be, we may need to just sort of rethink that plan as, when we have overflow parking, we need to, tell people this is where you can go. And it's we encourage you to go there, and not everyone's going to do it. A lot of people just have to, get the closest parking space to the trailhead before they go hike 3 miles, which I do not understand. I want to stop and get a coffee first. So, so that might be kind of, and then of course, when we're, discussing possibly acquiring, additional properties, that throws yet another monkey wrench into it. I just think that we need to start preparing for that, since it's something that we're trying to work toward. We start preparing for that. So, and I think that, whatever happens to the property, that other property that neighbors the park, parking is going to be a consideration. And so we need to maybe have a little 5,000 foot view of what our, what we're going to be asking for. If we don't control the adjacent property, what we would ask for to accommodate it. If we were to acquire it, what our loose plan would be, how are we going to do that? Yeah. So, I mean, obviously, one of the things that would really help that is we just help traffic flows if we can get Foothill to go through. That's just, for traffic flow and access, because if people in the south end uptown want to come, we want them to ride their bikes, and we want to make that as easy as possible. So it'd be kind of like, you can't subtract it from traffic flow, you can't subtract it from housing policy, you can't, it's all a little gnarly, challenging area.
Absolutely. Well, we'll come back with, we obviously our parks superintendent provided data on some parking space, but we'll memorialize that, Hector, in a memo, to this planning and sustainability subcommittee. And this might be something we take to council ultimately. Couple of things relative to kind of parking at City Park that pertains to future acquisition of Light Ranch will be for us to develop a trailhead plan. We did identify as part of that we would want to provide at a minimum some accessible parking adjacent to the entrance. I don't think there's going to be a large number of spaces, but there would be some additional spaces kind of dedicated to accessible parking. Ultimately, we are going to develop a cost estimate for various tasks, including developing that trailhead plan, the master plan, for submittal to the county upon approval of council, or kind of establishing an endowment for that work.
Yeah.
So, and then I just happened to speak with Supervisor Gore on Sunday, and he said, put the ask together, make it big,
Yeah.
bring it to the board. So we'll want to identify all the things we want to accomplish with the park, and parking is going to be a critical piece of that, so.
Well, and I think part of that too, David, is saying, when you are kind of talking about that big request, is that, you know, you need that other trailhead in the Wine neighborhood. You need that other trailhead because you don't want people to have to, you want to have multiple ingress and egress, like for public safety and for fire and everything, but also just practicality. It's like, we don't want everybody driving to city park to park.
Yeah.
Whether it's going to be city parking lot, and that's not the point. That beautiful park is probably like the gem of the city. So and you can't I'm speaking to the choir, I know, but you can't separate these uses, so.
Right. And I think we've preliminarily identified a parking location on Foothill Boulevard in north of Vintage Meadows Park,
Mhm.
where there can be a trailhead access. And there's a lot of parking there with minimal impacts to neighbors, certain neighbors back on.
Yeah.
And across the street, there's a few homes, and they can be tailored so as to not disrupt their property frontage. But also providing a safe access to the park so that it minimizes the impact of city park.
It's real quick, not to belabor this, but one of the things happening at City Park now is folks who live in the neighborhood are just parking there.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
so,
Where David just mentioned.
no, where the current spots are that are unstriped, so Hector.
And you might want to have it be limited. You might.
We were thinking, I mean, maybe
Yeah, no
coming up with
points.
some signs, so just saying for park use only. We wouldn't enforce it, but, you know.
I'll tell them that now. But we may want to prohibit 24-hour parking because the park is closed from, and that might be difficult in the right of way though, in the street. So it might be
People can park
more
there.
enforceable at the park. Yeah.
Well, we'll put that together, David said, to maybe do a memo, maybe we'll include something.
Yeah.
Yeah, I know because Vice Mayor wanted to weigh in on this too, because he had
Okay.
a discussion with our neighbors, so we'll bring this back.
Yeah, sounds good.
Okay.
Yeah, that's fine.
That was, good work, because, I think we've got to have a near-term solution that we can offer the neighbors, but obviously this is kind of crying out for which is, when we were touring the areas and talking about it, we were like, oh, wow, this sort of, it doesn't blow up the city park master plan, but it's heavily impacts, we might want to move more of our urban uses down into city park. We just might want to rearrange how we have some of those uses done because we've got access to that open space now. so.
Absolutely, and then there's obviously we just built 2 new basketball courts.
Right, we're committed.
We're really looking at the Scouts cabin
Yeah,
for the programming. We're installing we're replacing 2 of the horseshoe pits today. So there's all things kind of in flux.
We've got a ways to stop. They're just gonna find something.
Our parks are so nice that we're getting just
Yeah,
quadruple the visitors. There's so many visitors on a daily basis.
yeah, it's a great problem.
Yeah.
What we want. So we want people there, we want eyes on the street, we want people enjoying it, using it, and just the potential now with that additional open space is really, it's something we haven't had to deal with this as a community. It's a great problem to have,
Absolutely.
but I know we can figure it out, so. But I'm glad that the neighbors spoke up and just said, hey, this is an issue we've got to start looking at. I think they're right. Because I walk over there and I can kind of see that, like, oh, that person lives here. I see people like walk out of the properties from across the street and they get in their car and they go to work, in the morning if I'm walking all over early. It's just like, okay, no. Free parking is not free. Okay, well, great. Well, thanks. We look forward to, working on that more. And so we're going to table the arts program discussion, right? Until we
Sarah comes back.
hopefully get them back. And then, let's see. So should we just move on to stacking items?
Sure.
Okay. Community development log, how are we doing?
No real new applications, Probably one of the things I just report out is David and I have been in some regular conversations with a potential buyer of the resort.
Is that the same people as last time or?
There's been, I don't know who your person you knew,
I can't
but
keep Yeah.
there's been several since I've been here, but
Okay.
you know, we've been, getting regular updates and I think it's promising, but there's some few hurdles there, but it'd be really nice if we could plan one of these.
I actually got a really good question from a neighbor. It's related to the community development law. A couple, I'm sure you've had people comment that Baumgartner is underway and looking big. What is our current inspection staff looking like? Are we still contracting with Mark or what's going on?
Yeah, we have Coastland doing the building.
Okay,
And then we have a West Coast employee doing the public works inspections.
okay, so that we have somebody, because I imagine that once they really get up and rolling, they're gonna need really regular inspections. I just didn't know how we were handling that. So is
Yeah,
it SBF's contract?
Yes, it's under our city engineer contract.
Okay,
They're providing public works inspections and they're coordinating with both the public works director and our engineering tech. So, Bobby Spagnola has been accompanying the public works inspector out to.
and I don't think I met Bobby yet.
Oh, yeah, so we can introduce you.
Yeah.
So
He wasn't at Star Wars. So.
it's a team effort. And because not only is it a considerable amount of public works inspections for Baumgartner, but also for the direct entry of 5-year follow project. So both of those are actually keeping the both of them very
Pretty
busy.
busy.
Yeah.
Yeah.
There's a lot of staff time being spent on ensuring that our city standards are being met. And that they're constructing the public improvements, which include water system, wastewater systems, streets, and drainage facilities in accordance with their approved improvement plans. And it's an ongoing day-to-day effort.
That's why I think, my Roger Clinton, who lives on the corner, and he was, a tremendous amount of construction expertise, said, even though he's armchair quarterbacking, even though he's retired, he's like, you guys have what is the staff right now for inspecting, because those projects need almost daily, check-ins, and I was like, I will check for you.
Right.
So, okay, so.
And I can assure him,
Yeah.
and we can certainly give him Bobby's contact information.
Okay,
And then because Bobby Spagnola is coordinating.
okay, so he's
The
the main point
day-to-day.
in the city for that, and then he's coordinating with West Coast and Coastland.
Right.
Okay.
On the specific dates and times and what's being inspected.
Yeah, because we can't hold them up, but they're, we've got, El Nino, I keep saying that, it's like we've got El Nino barreling down our,
It's mostly public works at this point,
It is,
and
okay.
pipes and roads and things like that, but
gotcha.
when the building starts, and I've already talked to Coastland, that if this becomes too much, we're gonna have to ramp up or hire a dedicated person or whatever we're gonna do, but they're aware of it. So.
And on the building side, we do we have 2 staff. We have a member of Coastland that's coming in and doing kind of admin scheduling because it's ramping up.
Yeah.
And then a person that is doing the actual inspections. So
Yeah.
that's kind of helped. In the past, we've had one person doing kind of both the admin and the inspections. And it gets to be a lot
Hard to
running
keep
back
up,
and
yeah.
forth between City Hall and going out in the field. So
Oh, great, okay.
I think that addition has been helpful.
Yeah, and just one more thing, remember the Ledson project,
Yes.
he's gearing up.
Okay,
Yeah, so.
so that's yet another one, we might have 3.
The market rate
big ones
apartments,
going,
and
yeah.
then potentially Osti Road if they get their financing, but they're probably out a little further.
Yeah, that they'll probably, they'll get funding through, yeah.
Yeah.
The round is supposed to be August, so it's,
So
We would
we'll find out
Yeah.
if they get the August round or, okay.
no, it's August or November, but anyway, it's coming.
August, but I can,
yeah, I just signed something like a month ago or weeks.
Yeah, they asked us.
Another, yeah,
yeah,
I think
okay,
it was August.
Okay, great. Well, that's a great update on, there's stuff cooking. Anything else on the development law we need to be aware of? That's good. Do we have an update on 6 acres and South Cloverdale water companies?
Yeah, well, I'll start with 6 acres. So we have coordinated with the UC Davis Law School on drafting an annexation agreement for 6 acres. They've been appointed by the state to oversee or provide, technical assistance to the process, to the city and to the water company for annexation of the 6 acres water company to the city. The annexation agreement, it will or does follow for the most part the form that of the pre-annexation agreement that was approved by council. And in fact, a lot of what was called for in the pre-annexation agreement that was required by council was the public infrastructure be funded by the state, and the state has stepped up in terms of 6 acres and is funding the public infrastructure design work by for GHD. We've been coordinating with their staff engineer, Holly Sinkudis, on development of plans. It's a slow process because everything that gets funded has to go through the state process. So even ordering title reports, which are necessary just for finding easements and things like that, it seems to take months. to get that.
Approved
Wow.
expenditure.
Wow.
It's like one piece at a time.
Right.
It is moving though.
Yeah, so,
By mail.
so the design process that was set forth in the pre-annexation agreement for the planned water and sewer improvements are underway, and there's, identified funding for those. So we're planning to bring the annexation agreement to council for council consideration in September. The state's attorney has been asked to review it, and that they indicate it takes about a month to do that. So that's in process.
We were ready to go, and then
Right.
they said, wait a minute, one more check.
Yeah.
Oh, my, okay.
The state, with the same UC Davis, prepared both a pre-annexation and annexation agreement for South Cloverdale Water Company. We haven't taken that up yet, with council, like we did with 6 acres.
Yeah.
So that's one we will need to coordinate also and bring it forward for council review. Pre-annexation agreement, that one actually has been remarkably, UC Davis has done a really good job at putting those together. And it's amazing they did that one before they finished 6 acres, but that also is one we just haven't brought forward. It's a little more complicated because of the land area, some areas in, some areas not in the city. So, and then there's state-owned land, and so there's some
The Caltrans?
there's the Caltrans property down back behind the kind of where the back behind Iron, back in there.
So, and drainage for the.
I don't know, it's just, I think it was like property that was maybe they used for construction staging or something for the highway.
Right away they use.
Would that be considered? That be considered redundant property that could go to housing under?
I think it probably would fit that criteria.
Okay.
But this is where what they have not done yet with South Cloverdale is started the process, or they're not at least as far along in the process of designing the infrastructure, and that one is a lot more complicated because of the difference in topography and what areas are going to get served and what areas won't. And ultimately, the funding applications haven't been approved to do that work yet. So that's kind of in process.
Have I think I know the answer to this. Have we done any work to see about a throughway from those areas through Park and then down, and then like how to connect maybe a pedestrian to the train station.
Yeah.
And the transit station, I'm gonna start calling it.
Yeah, I don't, to my knowledge, we haven't done that preliminary planning yet.
Wasn't that in one of the,
It was an idea, it wasn't,
wasn't Greg Scott out on that one?
I think so, yeah.
Somebody heard about that.
But I mean, there were discussions about this, is that how to connect a multimodal trail or a pedestrian dedicated trail.
Was that in that urban land?
It was hinted at, it wasn't really, it was like, oh, you could do this, you could do this, yeah.
Did some of the things you could do include an overpass or something?
Well, actually, the suggestion was blow a hole in the Caltrans,
Underpass?
blow a hole
Oh.
in the down wall right at the,
Citrus Fair.
Yeah.
Uh-huh.
yeah. Like, oops.
Yeah,
Yeah. That was one of the, yeah, and then that gets everybody from that side of town
yeah.
in a dedicated pedestrian right to
Yeah.
the transit station.
It's a good idea.
Part of that was in public, right? I found. I don't know. I think so. I mean, it looks like it, you know, there's most of it's like in his backyard. and it ends in
Yeah,
this-
exactly. No, you're
There's like a,
thinking-
yeah,
that was
it's more than a
exactly the
street.
thinking. That was exactly the thinking. I was like, it's a public right of way. It's just, yeah, so.
Yeah.
So that might be just something we want to kind of have an overview, you know,
I'll put that on for,
that would be great, yeah.
so, what are we calling that?
I don't know.
Pedestrian.
Pedestrian.
That's actually something
There's a
that
hole in the wall.
our supervisor has indicated. That they would support planning and I think. You know, what it speaks to, especially for South Cloverdale, now part of it is in the city, so that's already got a zoning designation and general plan.
Right.
But almost having a specific plan for that area or some kind of guiding document that I think helps.
Well, you know,
With parks and acts and pedestrian
we
movement.
don't want to diverge too much from the agenda. So Mike, you can just jump in anytime. But it all relates to the, you know, what we were talking about, it was like a North County Parks Plan, and also, you know, just a pedestrian, bicycle and sorry, car movement through
Circulation plan.
circulation plan that gets people to these destinations, to these destinations, whether it's work or play or, you know, which they might, if you're like Hector, you can play where you work and work where you play, you know, if you're lucky enough to have that job, but
That'd be
so
fun.
it kind of relates to all of that stuff, but it also relates to, and the reason I've got everybody together really early on is that SMART is developing their wayfinding program, and as is Great Redwood Trail, and those two things need to come together. And since we're a major terminus for those projects, we need to make sure that any wayfinding we're doing at like the River Park we start talking about it in those terms, is that we're going to be wayfinding with all of our major you know, what you call them, anchor tenants.
Features.
Yeah,
Definitions.
yeah. So I mean, you know, it's great to like have a park, you know, have a meeting at River Park and talk about signage and everything, but you don't want to talk about it in a silo outside of if River Park becomes an extension of the SMART Trail, Great River Trail, you don't want to, you know, different sign plans, you want it to kind of at least, you know,
Same goal too.
yeah, you want it to converge. And don't go out for separate funding, go out for the same funding together, so
We'll put that on for next time.
that would be great, yeah,
Pedestrian passage, Citrus Fair,
yeah.
we'll call it that or something else.
Yeah, I think it's community,
Get that, Mike?
community wayfinding, because it's like, you know, those are kind of isolated, you know, really rural communities that are right in our sphere of influence.
Something like that is, I think we're gonna have a housing element, so we have our next, like, one of our things coming up, that's going to come out of our housing element is gonna be. Like things like that, linkages, access for housing, you know,
Right.
to facilities, to
Right.
public, yeah, and that's definitely one of them.
And this is probably gonna be, I mean, if we get some interest, there's nothing we can do about it, if it's a Caltrans surplus property. And it goes to development, it's like, I'd rather do the work ahead of time to integrate all these places than have it just be plopped down there. So, okay. So actually, that probably does take us into the housing element. Just number 3.
Just real quick, our consultant submitted comments to ACD on July 31st, they have 60 days to apply. And we thought we were done, but there was some last minute comments that snagged us a little bit.
Second to last minute.
Second round of last minute.
Okay,
So,
so we'll hear back.
Yeah.
Okay. And then, update on downtown Wi-Fi, is there any?
No real update specifically on Wi-Fi, though we talked a little bit kind of connected to the broadband. The county issued a press release identifying their plan for deploying or expanding broadband. The real focus, and I think I've reported this out, for what they're calling kind of phase one is to bring and extend broadband out to areas that currently do not have service. So looking at both east and west of the city and extending that backbone infrastructure. We had a meeting with staff had a meeting with Sonic about the idea of extending fiber to our both of our treatment plants. One to support SCADA, but also to support connectivity to City Hall. And we were gonna reach out to the Economic Development Board about whether there's some opportunities to dovetail that with the work that they're gonna do to fund backbone infrastructure improvements to the county. And so, I think just trying to get a discussion going about, building out the fiber network. Sonic did indicate that they have done work already to extend fiber to the school.
Yeah.
So it sounds like kind of some of the backbone is there and where we want to do it, what we want to kind of do from a city perspective is to make sure we get fiber to our central facilities.
Yeah.
And I think, that's kind of a first step. And then as I understand it, kind of phase two with the broadband funding that's been made available through CPUC is going to be then to focus on once you address kind of getting that infrastructure extended to areas that are underserved, begin focusing on how you can improve service in areas that already have access. So that's where I think that's kind of where we come in, I think, is what opportunities will there be for us to get funding kind of as part of phase two to expand access and get connectivity to the network.
Yeah, we could, well, if we could get Smart Train to the station, we'd have broadband to the station and on Asti Road, and we could,
And we're getting reports that fiber, that there's a group working on extension of fiber along the railroad tracks right now. And apparently, as part of the concept to bring it over to the coast. And so our public works director is going to follow up to see if there's opportunities to. Apparently, they asked if we want to put in some kind of node or connection for our water treatment plant, and of course we do. So there's I don't know who's leading up that effort, and if that's through Smart or if that's
I don't think it is. I
you
don't
know,
think it is, because, there were no smart trucks out there the day that I saw them at the track. And actually, I saw some work being done on my way out of town last week, and I was gonna ask you if but I don't think they're related.
Oh, I think I saw, like by the water treatment plant?
Well,
Or,
but on the train track.
Yeah, I saw that, those were city guys, but
They were city guys.
that
know
I
who they
think
were?
was the
I
fiber.
think that was.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, because
Yeah.
that's where the line would be. Yeah,
Mhm.
that's where it comes through town, and
Yeah.
it makes right.
So I don't know if Smart's tied into the county's effort. I mean, it seems
Yeah,
like all these efforts, we need to marry them so that we
Right.
can leverage each other's, work. And so we're
come
now.
up with a new title for myself. I'm a de-siloing specialist.
Yeah,
Hey,
it's-
you guys should talk to each other. Yeah.
right, rather than us extending it, if
Right.
it's already being extended and we could just do the connection point. I know you
Yeah.
still ultimately have to pay for that service once you get it, but.
But we said yes, and we're hopefully pursuing that to the water treatment plant.
Yes.
Okay, great.
Yeah, we absolutely, because we're
Yeah.
actually, we're gonna be bringing to councils, it kind of tied to this, to a certain extent, is a proposal for upgrading SCADA at the plant.
Right.
So we, it's really important that we have good broadband access.
it would be great if we, I mean, obviously those are their priority, but you know, it's just like a dead zone in downtown for anybody who's trying to, you know, do business. Not that posting on social media is the most important thing, but it is one of the things that supports our local business climate is, you know, when visitors come here, being able to be plugged in and helping to spread the word. This is a great place to visit. So that would be great if phase 2 or 3 down the line, we could, you know, get better Wi-Fi downtown. And to all of our businesses here. So, all righty, let's see. Well, we pretty much killed number 4. How about an update on Clearwater Ranch? Do we?
Scheduled for the council on September 13th, kind of the same pitch they gave you guys.
Okay.
And we'll have a little more analysis on the ballot options.
Oh, great.
And costs.
And then they're gonna have to decide what they want to.
Yeah.
And well, I guess we'll have to decide how much we want to support it, but.
We can give them direction to do the signatures.
Yeah.
I mean, we'll have a discussion. We may not resolve it all that night, but
I think they kind of know what they wanted. They know what they want to do. So, all right, number 5, ride program. Can you define which ride program are we talking about?
I think this was put on, as part of the discussion around establishing the program. Like, whether you call it a county-wide or a county program that offers additional transportation options, particularly for seniors. I think that was.
Okay, so we're talking about the senior one. Okay. Yeah, now I did receive from Eddie at Smart, and I think I forwarded it to you, the Northern California transportation analysis.
Yeah.
By California, and just basically saying you guys have a lot of systems and they all work together. That has, I think, a lot of promise. One of the outcomes of that was the email that I also forwarded on the Amtrak service, being able to go city to city, not having to buy a train ticket. And so I think that's the direction that we're definitely, you know, headed in. So I think we need to monitor it, and then also continue to work at the county level just to start pushing, you know, to really push for an integrated transportation system.
are they gonna drop that requirement to have a train ticket in order to ride the bus?
It's already done.
Is it, oh, it is.
It's already done, yeah. I was worried because it's like, I think it was passed 2 years ago, and they're only just now implementing it. But I think that report's gonna support and spur a lot better integration with our transportation systems.
That was one of the recommendations.
Yeah. Yeah.
Well, people realize there's an Amtrak bus that goes.
There's an Amtrak bus that goes right through Cloverdale, and you
Wow.
can take it all the way. So, you know, anybody going to, yeah, which is perfect for my friends' kids who just all, you know, graduated from Humboldt, but all the way to Arcata and Eureka. And then also it connects to the Capitol Corridor, and of course, well, and always connected to the Amtrak stations, but you can also hop on Capitol Corridor and other
What's that?
right with the train.
Oh.
A train, not Amtrak, it's the Capitol Corridor train. And then it can also, I mean, you know, theoretically, you could take it from anywhere here down to San Rafael Transit Station, and you could hop on Smart and because from there, it takes the Richmond San Rafael Bridge, so you'd have to hop on Smart to hook up with Larkspur Ferry, but it's all doable. You know, or you could ride it to the Santa Rosa transit station and hike 5 blocks, or you can take it all the way to San Rafael and walk across the street to get to Smart. So probably the better
Trying to
choice.
get on the Redwood bus line too with Santa Rosa,
Yeah,
the white buses, those.
yeah, you can get on.
Golden Gate Transit.
The Golden Gate Transit, yeah, you can get down to San Francisco Financial District or wherever, so. It really does open up a lot of possibilities for people who are doing, you know, travel. I'm planning on giving it a try. I want to make sure it's to Sacramento, because I have to go at the end of the month, and then I have to go next month to the annual conference. So I'm gonna give it a try.
Like, you're gonna take the bus from Santa Rosa
Take the bus from here to the Capitol Corridor bus, which would take me to Sacramento.
Oh,
To
Bus, trains, and
and
automobiles.
to
Planes,
planes, trains, and the airport, that would be perfect, but yeah. Because that will take me to what is it, is it Manteca or that?
Yeah,
It's
it's-
Manteca.
yeah, like. I have a girlfriend that she brother knows sometimes that she would take that,
Mhm.
and that bus would take her to. like the high end downtown Santa Rosa.
Right.
I've seen
Exactly.
that.
Oh, yeah, can we see what our board attendees are?
Oh,
Okay.
there she
There
is.
she is. Yeah, okay.
So we can go back up.
That's the update that I have on, just on staying on the right program, but also, just kind of a staff change at SCTA that's inevitably coming up. We'll probably, we'll see what where my other board members are, but, we're really, pushing for integrating all of these services so that we can actually get service here. And then later on today, you'll get an email. The NTCA BAG has a summer survey out that I'm going to encourage everybody to hop on and just insist that MTC put Cloverdale, in the Plan B area 2050. Because they seem to think that buses are the best solution for northern Sonoma County, but with the distances that we have, train is really the best solution. And if we're not in Plan B area for passenger rail, then that precludes freight as well. And supposedly they're trying to get freight off of the 37101 corridors. And they could get a lot of that freight off of that corridor if we transload here in Cloverdale. So you will be receiving an email later today. Okay.
Include the survey review link in the.
Okay, but yeah, we're continuing to work toward that. Sorry, is there any comment at this point? And otherwise, we're gonna move back to discussion of the arts program because we've been rejoined by our presenters. No,
Sarah, can you hear us?
Come ahead and give her permission to do one more.
you gonna elevate her to panelist?
So you are Sarah, right?
Yes.
Okay.
Oh, now I changed my name. I'll do that.
Well, thank you for responding to all my emails and all my questions over the last couple of months. And I know you guys were at a conference last time, you couldn't join us, so we postponed it. I think our interest is really trying to put together a modest art program. And I know our Councilmember Bagby here was part of the discussion up in the city of Eureka, where I think a former employee there really was promoting the program as a way for cities to adopt and easily kind of, you did the legwork, so here it is, and it's a really good program. And I know it's been in place for a few years now. So again, like my email said, we wanted to pick your brain, or maybe you give us an overview. I don't know if you know about Cloverdale, how big we are, like what makes sense for us, given your experience with Eureka, and then maybe just some questions.
That sounds great. So a little bit of background. In 2016, staff initiated sort of the beginnings of putting the plan together, and did quite a bit of legwork and time talking to communities. There were community town halls, there were focus groups, there were individual interviews, really trying to reach out to the community and get an idea of what was already happening and what the community wanted to see. And the plan was adopted by City Council in 2017. It went through sort of a community input phase, it went to the Arts and Culture Commission, and then it went to City Council. And then once we had it in place, it's really been the backbone for staff in terms of what projects to prioritize, and like the justification for finding funding and spending staff time on those projects that the community and council identified. And we've been to a 5-year plan, so we are sort of past that timeline. However, we're still working through some of the projects. We were pretty ambitious in some of our goals. And it looks like you also have attached the annual updates that we did. We intended to do an annual update every year. COVID kind of got in the way of that. But we picked back up with our annual update last year and sort of reviewed the projects that were in the original document and treated it as a living document. So went through and updated and reprioritized based on sort of the current conditions, what was happening. And that was the 2022 report, so that was last year. And we are looking at updating the strategic plan again in a big overhaul. We intended to do it this year. However, think we have too many things on our plate. We're very busy actually doing quite a few art projects in town, so we haven't had a chance to go back to the drawing board for this new vision of the plan. I think some of the big lessons learned, we at the time needed to do a lot of community input, and it was the first time this was being done. It was part of Eureka reckoning with its identity as an artist community, and really part of a larger renaissance for Eureka in terms of recognizing itself as like a desirable place to live, a desirable place for people to come visit, and sort of codifying that in a series of different plans. So looking to the future, we'll probably do things a little bit different. So I think the big takeaways were it was helpful for the time, but we could have reached out more to individual artists. That was some feedback we heard, and we really missed the boat on the cultural piece. We will in the future be talking a lot with our culture bearers in our community and reaching out to them quite a bit more in this next version to encompass the culture of Eureka. Cultures of Eureka. I think also we, at the time, really had a lot happening in terms of art, but the city had the time and bandwidth to be able to take on some of these projects directly. So you saw a lot of projects identified in the plan that were delegated to the city to actually do, and we've executed quite a few of them. However, one of the reasons we haven't redone the plan is that it has taken quite a bit of staff time. So this next version, I think we'll be looking more at partnerships and eliminating barriers that the city has some sort of control over to help foster art in the community without as much direct involvement from us. But it's been a slam dunk of a project. We just wrapped up our 5th annual Street Art Festival, which put another 18 murals in town. You also see quite a few other murals just going up because there's a lot of enthusiasm and excitement and sort of identity that the community, like you see a mural going up, you want to put a mural up, a business owner. And so business owners have been constantly approaching us and figuring out ways to have murals on their buildings outside of the Street Art Festival. And we are also getting ready to do quite a bit of our utility boxes. Again, it's been about 5 years and they've aged. So we'll be looking at September and October for that. So with that, I feel like you have all seen the plans, you're pretty familiar with it. So if you have questions, thoughts, happy to sort of brainstorm and tell you nitty-gritty about whatever details you're interested in.
Well, Sarah, just to let you know, so on Thursday morning, I have a meeting in Eureka with Great River Trail, so I'm going to go check out all the art. I think I'll be in the county building. I think that's where we're meeting. So yeah, not at City Hall, but so I'm looking forward to going and checking it all out. And then kind of that idea of the utility boxes needing to be renewal. I'll go check out like what 5 years looks like, because I remember seeing those. I think I was there for so we got this presentation as part of a Cal City presentation with the city of Eureka, and I think it was like 2017 or something like that. So it's kind of interesting to kind of see how it's evolved. I think that there are steps that any city would have to kind of take, you have to take, but you've also done a lot of the legwork to get us kind of where we need to go. Can you kind of talk about maybe some other cities that have either considered this or talked about adopting it, or anybody else that you're aware of?
There are a couple of folks who have talked about it. I'm not aware of any processes that we follow closely and seen executed beyond our neighbor city, the city of Arcata, who one of the staff members who worked on our original plan is now over at the city of Arcata and has taken what she's learned, and they executed a strategic art plan of their own. And it looks a little bit different than Eureka's. I would also look at that one and see what they've done. They're a smaller city than Eureka. And their council they're a college town, and they went in a little bit of a different direction. But it's again very heavy on community input, which was incredibly important for them in the community.
Yeah, that's probably a little bit as far as size, they're a little closer to us, so, or we're kind of
I'll get a copy.
a little in between. Yeah, that's good. That's great advice.
Okay.
Arcade range for, so, oh, that's great. Yeah, and I was just there for a different meeting. And they have beautiful, street art and integration with the campus and. Yeah, it has a little bit of a different feel, so I'll get to go to Eureka this time and compare a little bit more, so that's very helpful, yeah.
Yeah, they looked at doing fire hydrants. A program similar to the utility box art program, but they're doing fire hydrants, which was, I just thought, an interesting idea. But the utility box art program has been something that we've continued to do because overall, I mean, it's a real big thing for your buck for staff time. That, you know, we've had them for 5 years. Some of them still look great, some of them need love. But we used a sponsorship model so that the city isn't directly paying for the cost of the paint and the artist's time. So there is I run that program now, and my time is definitely still involved in coordinating everything, but you get quite a bit of community involvement, and the art lasts for a fairly long time. So it's been really
Yeah, that's one of the things I remember is that if the utility box was located outside of the business, they were asked to sponsor it, and then they would have a contract directly with the artist to do maintenance. And is that working out or not working out, or you still have to kind of maintain it?
We haven't done the maintenance contract part. The city was sort of the intermediary between the artist and the sponsor. Sometimes it was a business, sometimes it was just a community person. Absolutely, though, when we often try to approach a business first if it was outside the business, because that was one of the lessons we learned pretty early on was that there are different opinions about art, and particularly businesses have strong opinions when that art goes in front of their business.
Yeah.
So we weathered a couple of different storms with that. So we notified early and gave them an opportunity early, and still do. Maintenance agreements, that was something I think we've learned that we want to codify more in this round. We're working through creating this round's contract, and we're doing more in the way of codifying that with our artists and expectations for what that looks like. But it's a little challenging because you know, you're working in the public right away, and they need to work under the city permits and regulations, and balancing that with an artist who just wants to go out and like fix the problem that they see. So we're finding ways around that. We've got some grant money from Caltrans to sort of help with their boxes. They own about half the boxes in our program. But happy to also talk the nitty-gritty of utility box programs and lessons learned, and big positives from it, and anytime if anybody needs it.
Yeah, you and Kevin may have to compare notes offline. You can tell him all of his horror stories offline, so.
Well, maybe a modest way to start would be a utility box.
Yeah.
I don't know. I'll talk to Sarah, but I don't know. I think that seems like one
Just
that you're pretty interested
Just
in.
having a policy around that, and then I think, you know, and the reason this like came back yet again, Sarah, because I've like been bringing this up, and then there was COVID, so I'm bringing it up, is that we were approached by a local nonprofit who was interested in partnering with and finding locations for a mural, and I was like, well, okay, and unfortunately that grant didn't get funded, but it's kind of, you know, spurred us to say we should, if we have a policy in place and we're just making it easier, we identify potential spots, then we're not playing catch up. You know, so but you kind of answered one of my questions was you could get Caltrans grants for anything that's Caltrans, but were there, and then we've just also discussed the Bloomberg grant for street art, which is literally art like on asphalt. It's like literally for painting on asphalt, and which kind of ties into our wayfinding discussion from earlier today. So we have a couple of key intersections that lead to kind of our anchor destinations that actually would, you know, might be appropriate for. But were there any other grants or, you know, sources of funding that we would just want to, or is that all in your plan?
So for the most, we didn't identify, I think that looking to the next plan, we will work to identify funding sources more, because that was, I think, something we could have improved on. The projects that like we've been very directly involved in, like the utility box program, the street art festival. And then another one we have, this summer, we're also doing an intersection mural. So a mural will be going on like physically on the pavement and the intersection between the crosswalks. Those are actually 3 different funding mechanisms that four technically. So the utility box art, we got Caltrans Clean California grant money this time around, but previous to that, we used private sponsorship. The Street Art Festival also has had Caltrans Clean California money, but for the most part is also local sponsors. So they asked the Street Art Festival committee is made up of Swan, so 1 city staff member, and then there's 2 local business people who donate their time to the project as well. But they ask the local business or the building owner to pay 50% of the mural cost, and then they fundraise the other 50%, and they pay $10 a square foot. And then the artist is responsible for purchasing materials out of that, and that seems to work pretty well. So it's a little bit, the Street Art Festival organizing committee does some fundraising, but also asks the building owner or business, whoever wants that mural, to cover 50% of the cost, or sometimes 100%. Some of the murals this year were 100% covered by the property owner. And then the intersection mural that we're doing, council had a little bit of funding left over after the last budget cycle and decided to do a participatory budgeting process. And out of that participatory budgeting process, the community identified that they wanted to see an intersection mural, and so strategized putting city funds towards it. But that was a heavy public input process that ended up putting 10,000, I believe, towards the intersection mural.
That makes sense.
Well, that's great. I have my resource here, and I'll try to put something together, and at some point we should probably take to the council and see if they're, wanting to. But I think it seems like the utility box is a pretty modest start. I don't know. We can talk about that.
We can talk about it, yeah. But thank you, Sarah. That's
Yeah,
great.
Sarah,
So
thank
we
you
talked
so
about-
much.
Yeah, you're welcome. If I could add one last thought, I think one of the big benefits of the plan has been sort of codifying staff time spent on it. And so while the city has put very little in the way of direct funds to art, oftentimes you just need somebody to shepherd a project along and give it energy and work with the partners who have the money or have the interest and sort of connect all the dots. And that's where like our little economic development team has been the most successful, is having the staff time to be able to support these projects and make them happen with, I guess, in-kind time, staff time.
If I can, Chair, just, Sarah, thanks again for your overview. And, you kind of raised a question for me when you mentioned economic development, and because it's something I think that's really critically important. Did this program kind of develop organically because there was just such local interest in arts, or were there these other connections made to, larger like economic development goals, general plan goals, or kind of a vision that was established by council or the community, to be an arts community? So I'm just looking for what were the connections that make up this program, as successful as it is.
Absolutely. At the time, it really, I think, was more the second, where council was really discussing as a whole the economic direction of the city, and particularly when it comes to identified Eureka as like a place that, they looked at big vision. We wanted it to be a place that was like livable, people enjoyed living here, and also like offered assets to tourists. A little bit of background on Eureka, I'm sure you're all familiar, but everybody talks about the redwoods, and like while that is part of Eureka's identity, Eureka is so much more than the redwoods, and Eureka itself doesn't have the big redwood state parks. And so it was sort of, the art plan came out of the discussion of well, what is Eureka? And it has been one of the building blocks of the economic development that we have identified. We later, it was developed in tandem, but the plan was adopted slightly later, did an economic development plan that partnered with the strategic art plan, and back each other up, and the strategic art plan is a part of the economic development strategy.
Got it, got it. No, I think those linkages are helpful to understand, so it's not arts isn't kind of sitting there by itself, it's connected to these other goals and how it helps fulfill branding. You know, it's an attraction for the community, so it's meeting economic development goals, it's fostering workforce development with the artists and creating
Absolutely.
and a role for them, so.
Yeah, I kind of remember from the original, I can't believe I remember anything from the original presentation, it's been so long, but I do remember that it was kind of, and I think the reason that it kind of resonated with me, it's very, even though, Eureka is a county seat, it's a much larger community, you had a lot of people doing different artistic things in little silos and little pockets, and there was an arts group, and then they didn't talk to this other arts group where there were independent artists in. And I think that that's similar to what we have. We have an arts alliance here. We have had a sculpture trail that's part of our community in partnership with the community of Geyserville to our south. So we have a lot of people who are, and then of course we have our Cloverdale Performing Arts as well. And so we have a lot of people who are in that space that are serving kids, who are serving seniors in the community, that are doing a lot of different things. And then of course they're rightfully so asking for city involvement, saying, because the city owns the plaza, the kind of one of the main outdoor meeting places in town. And so it kind of seemed like we had the same beginnings as your program did, and wanting to find ways to have placemaking and find community and bring groups together. And as we know, a lot of times it's just like, you just need, like you said, you need that staff member to kind of shepherd the program through. So, that's why I wanted to bring it back and talk about it. So very similar beginnings.
Hector, you want to say something or?
Oh, no, I had a question for Sarah. Sarah, my name is Hector. I'm the park superintendent. Have you guys done any work in the parks? Like any murals in the parks?
Definitely. So within the parks, we have done several community murals. Most recently over in Shark Park, there's been a series of shark murals. And that one, the artists, I think, were generous enough to donate their time. That was sort of just a gift from a couple of our local artists. And then also in Shark Park, it's named so now because there's an art bench. So the city did a series of art benches where there is kind of funky artistic benches throughout the community. I think there's maybe 5 of them. The Shark Park has a shark bench with it. So.
I'll try to go take pictures for you, Hector.
Yeah, there we go. No, please take some pictures. Yeah, no, I've seen some great art, throughout in some of the parks. I've seen some benches and some murals, some art around the playgrounds and stuff that looks awesome. Stuff like that would be cool to incorporate here with us.
We own the land.
And and I think that's why, as far as being approached by the local group who wanted to do a mural, it's like, well, maybe we have to be the guinea pigs, and maybe we have to identify our own places where it would be appropriate, like one of the parks,
Right.
the plaza, and then the community can kind of I see what an asset it is, and then it can help be the catalyst for the rest of the community to join in. So yeah.
Great.
Go ahead, Sarah.
That was definitely our experience. The first year the strategic plan kicked off was also the first year of the Street Art Festival. And no, not quite. The 2018 was the first year of the Street Art Festival. But people started really seeing art, and there was a lot of hesitation from the community at that time. And after that first year, when I think 12 new murals showed up, all of a sudden, a huge amount of the community who wasn't on board originally came on board. Once they saw the enthusiasm, the excitement, and what art meant, because it was really a conversation around you have your folks who are really traditional in their view of what they want to see in art. And for us, it's redwoods, right? Where they want to see nature and they want to see it only hyper realistic. And the conversation about But it turns out when you put other kinds of art around, it doesn't ruin the community. And for the most part, people are very excited. And so I think you're right, like proof is in the pudding, and you see one and then everybody sort of gets on the train and gets excited. I'm also happy to host, I'm at the visitor center. We hear all the time, people are like, where's your mural map? I want to see the mural. It's actually been quite the tourist draw. And stop by the visitor center if you're ever in town. We're happy to show you around, see some of our murals and our projects. If you...
I will try to stop by. Exactly.
Check out Shark Park.
Yeah, no, I'm gonna go figure it out. I'm gonna take a 10.
Well, thanks again, Sarah. I really
Thanks,
appreciate
Sarah.
it. And I'll be in touch with you, and maybe I'll lay out what I think we can do, and you can run it by you and see what you think, and appreciate all your help.
Can we open up for public comment just in case? Anybody else? have a hand
Anybody out
raised?
there?
I'm not
Thank
seeing.
you, Chair. We have one member joining us virtually, Linda Chapman with the Cloverdale Senior Center.
Oh, hey, Linda. Okay, we're good. All right, thank you, Sarah. We appreciate it. And yeah, you'll be hearing from us.
Thank you. Call me anytime.
Bye.
Great.
Thank you.
Okay,
Well,
so
that
we've
was-
got some good starting
that was
points.
fun.
Yeah. Uh-oh, maybe this is gonna be, so I'm gonna go back to our standing item. So we're gonna go back to design standards. Hopefully those things won't be at odds with each other.
Park benches,
Shark benches. I know, we're gonna allow shark benches. Oh,
I think that's a very clear, that's a really non-objective standard. Do you want shark benches? That is what.
That's
you're-
good. You gotta put it in there. Right, is this one yours or?
Yeah, I guess so, we've taken a stab at what our existing regulations are, and essentially we're to a point where, what we're doing is a lot of crossing out and deleting, not really adding to it, so I think we're kind of at the point where there's a few ways we can go. I think we recommend that we would like to hire somebody to take a stab at, kind of giving us some of good objective standards that don't go over the edge, I guess, that kind of fit the community. I guess a third would, or a second attempt would be to let us take a stab at it, but,
I think we can go through and probably get to compliance with AB 35 where we can have the objective.
Yeah.
But it seems like from the council discussion, you were interested in design standards. So that's one way we could go. We can just do that internally, or we can. Windsor just completed theirs. We can maybe get some proposals to see if that, what it would cost to get design standards that are, considered in compliance with AB 35. Something that the planning commission and council could get behind, but that's gonna cost money.
Mhm.
So I think either, we're kind of looking for direction on either, just proceed with, like we're Paul's doing, deleting sections that we think are kind of, fitting with the neighborhood type thing.
Well, I think that a lot of the discussion was kind of done in a vacuum of not really understanding what the cost of that would be, and maybe you could just present it to the council in that, just like you did now, which is like, wow, we can either spend a lot of money, or we can do it in-house and just eliminate anything just to get us in compliance. Maybe it's just more important to get in compliance with the state, with the legislation, so.
Yes.
Considering our budget situation, that might be reality.
To know how much it's gonna cost.
No, how much is it gonna
Yeah,
cost?
so,
Yeah, if you're having a discussion in the bubble, you can have you can really develop a wish list, so.
Yeah, just food for thought, and I think that's where staff is taking the lead, is obviously eliminating that subjective language. So it's kind of more of a deductive exercise, which will require a amendment to the zoning ordinance, and go with a recommendation of the commission to create council. Where, one thing that has changed now with AB 35, particularly with regard to affordable housing, and affordable housing, of course, tends to be higher density, and multi-family type development. Does council seek to have some guidance or guiding documents to help with review of the design of those types of projects. And that's an area where the staff can do some work to propose, some subjective design standards, but it's an area where often involves kind of a technical expertise around architecture and dealing with, the relationship of the windows to the entrance to the lighting and how those all interrelate. And so you start getting to, very strict kind of design guidelines, no, not even guidelines, standards that, you really need kind of the help of a professional. And that's why I think that would be that I think outlining that for council is if you want to have a set of tools to review those multifamily development projects or something, say, for example, our zoning ordinance currently says 5 units or greater is subject to design review. That's more than just what's, the kind of the basic criteria. We're probably going to need some assistance with that. But with that said, it doesn't come without an expense to hire a consultant that's going to help develop those specific design criteria.
And kind of just in general, does the council want us to go that way? Like,
Yeah.
Our downtown one, when we did the downtown, probably the pre came through and we redid like it. Our downtown one is pretty good. There's different ones for the down DTC, for the TOD, and it does get down to, measurements and windows shall be recessed and all that. Do we want to go to that level with residential, And if we do, then well, at what cost, but first my ace is, do we want to go that way to that level of detail with windows and doors and colors and all that kind of stuff.
Right. And so maybe the avenue would be to bring forward a draft amendment that basically satisfies the requirements of AB 35, but with some options that, it doesn't mean we have to do it tonight or tomorrow, but could at least, work on getting some cost estimates and bring that forward as part of the budget process to see if this is something that fits into the overall budget. And maybe we can scale it from, here's some simple guidelines to, something, some cities have very developed design standards, in part because they went, much larger cities and a lot more development. They may, they want to have a lot more opportunities to review. But I was looking at, for example, with Windsor's, and they put together drafts. I mean, they really dive deep into, I think, certain issues that I think if our presented to council, they might say, yeah, we want to weigh in on things like, where the AC is located, where the garbage bins are situated, where what are
the utility box goes.
exactly.
So we don't have to have a.
What's
Yeah.
Buy them from Clover.
There you go.
right.
I think what Raphael is talking about is that those design standards were really formulated around form-based code. And the Windsor standards are really form-based code, and that they were really directed. I was on the planning commission at the time when we were doing a lot of that work, and it was that it was really in an attempt to create a vibrant downtown, so that we're not, putting in on Cloverdale Boulevard a wall that's the side of a bank. It was really to try to create a walkable, friendly, retail friendly on the bottom floor, potential of having, services or residences on the second, potentially third floor. So that was really the impetus behind that. And then the rest of town was really left alone. But what I might be hearing, I'm not sure, is that, we really didn't apply form-based code to our residential areas. And so, or industrial. And so, I don't know if I'm ready to go that far, but that's kind of what I'm hearing is that we might want to consider that, especially in areas where there's a potential for more multifamily development and there's more potential for it to go horribly wrong. And I think, oh, we all know what those places look like, where they just, you know, plot down a square and say, hey, you guys are good. I mean, a LEED Platinum building on Asty Road is that's a completely other, you know, that's a completely other thing. But you know, we don't, maybe, we're not requiring that kind of design finesse, you know, in other areas that would be eligible for multifamily, and maybe it's time to consider that. Understanding that there's a push from the state where that's just gonna be,
Yeah.
that's gonna be allowed.
Mhm.
So maybe we do want to look at more form-based code, unless that gets us into more trouble. What do you think, Kevin? Okay.
I think we should
Yeah,
do what David said.
I got street planners right here, so.
I mean, we go ahead and try to get in compliance with AB 35, and we get a couple proposals, maybe one to look at all of our design standards, just for the heck of it.
Yeah,
And then one to do the the residential side, which is more addressing AB 35.
yeah. So that you can't say no to things for arbitrary reasons.
It seemed like,
We also, or we get, as a result, hopefully get better walkable, bikeable, neighborhood friendly design.
well,
I mean,
it's a service for the developer, I think, because
Yeah.
it's just, this is what it is.
Yeah.
There were some comments on the Steve Road Planning Commission that maybe were a little subjective. We were kind of.
Well, I think it was also kind of done in a vacuum because people didn't understand that what it necessarily, what it would trigger as far as traffic analysis at the time. And I heard council members who had served on council for decades and they still didn't understand that. So maybe we need to have more education too around what some of this development actually, you know, triggers as far as traffic flow and analysis and infrastructure improvements.
Well, maybe we could seek out some proposals.
Yeah, I kind of bring that up because when staff brought forward the update to the downtown plan, I heard council actually articulating some comments that were kind of more aligned with scripted design standards.
Yeah.
And so it was like, okay, well, but we need to memorialize that to be able to enforce it, which we, without them, we won't,
Right,
Yeah,
without it, you actually
and
have
I
to do
mean,
the work.
I mean, and some of them seem that it, you know, it is predicated in kind of good design concepts,
Mhm.
and it's, I think what you're alluding to is like, buildings are fine until they're not.
Right. Oh,
It-
Well, I guess it-
you know, how did we end up with the wine co-op? Because we didn't address our design standards and our zoning at the south end of town, and that's what happens.
Yeah, well, and to your benefit, I mean, your feedback on the design helped, I think, improve what was originally proposed, and the architect actually was very supportive of that.
Yeah.
The project proponents were less supportive of
Because
it,
they expended me.
but I think because of that perspective that you offered during the design review, it led to a better design building than what it was, and that's what I want to make sure that we did use some of the tools that were in the guidelines about breaking up the facade, adding elements, and those were things that we were able to use out of the guidelines to be able to at least make some changes that, in my opinion, make the design better than it was.
Yeah, the industrial design.
Was
that
Yeah.
Lipstick on that pig, that's all I did, so, but yeah. But you do.
I mean, so, you know, I guess we'll continue down our path and then the bigger picture might be next budget, we'll propose, hiring someone to look at some.
Yeah, or we might be able to
Maybe it's not
steal from some of our neighbors, but you know, some of what other cities put together is kind of based on their own local perspective, and it may or may not be,
Yeah, and
you
then,
know, applicable to us.
yeah, because like the conversation that we just had was about the industrial part, and you know, like Windsor, or a lot of those cities, if they did update, they probably updated the residential ones. I don't know how many cities have, you know, added, beefed up their industrial guidelines, and maybe that's what we do want. We you know, and that conversation came up at a planning commission too, was about, you know, the south end of town and that building.
Right.
You
Well,
know.
and you know, one of the things that I've heard from folks too is that who are trying to start businesses is that well, first of all, you know, Razor is always full. And a lot of the spaces are just too big, and I mean, maybe one of the design concerns, and actually countywide for decades, everybody has said, I need a commercial space, but I don't need 20,000 feet. Commercial space, I need 4,000 or 5,000, and or I need to live work. I need the ability to do. We try to, we had a tiny little sliver of those, but now they've gone to pretty much residential. So
Yeah.
so I mean, maybe that is one of the the standards is that there has to be an ability to subdivide some of those larger spaces for startups, for incubator companies, because there just is no opportunity to do that. That might, I mean, I'm just throwing it out as it's like, well, we know we have an economic need for it, there's just pent up demand for it, but we just let people build, huge, which we need a huge warehouse space and huge industrial space, but it doesn't allow the really, smaller people to get into that market, so. Yeah, I'm not saying that that's the right thing to do, I'm just saying that that's a possibility,
Yeah.
so.
Yeah, at least a couple quotes, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay.
Or leave them.
But yeah, I think that, we might be in a position for a year or two where we just need to get in compliance with the law. And then if we want to take a bigger look, it's, how much it's gonna cost.
Okay.
It might not be something we can pull off this year or next year, maybe in 2 years. We can put it on a work plan, and then when we can finally fund it, we can get to it.
I mean, we might be able to look at impact fees and see if that's, if any of those are applicable to cover some of the planning that we necessarily need to be completed.
Right. Anything else on item 7? If not, we'll move on to SB 852, climate resilient communities. But do we have any updates or?
No, I'm trying to find a city that has actually, established.
There isn't one yet. It's like a brand new. We'll let somebody else do it first. I mean, we were talking about just different funding mechanisms, and one of the things that I mentioned at SMART was, we were talking about, if MTC is determined to leave Cloverdale off the Green Bay area or not eligible, why not create a one of these sustainability districts from Healdsburg to Cloverdale, and we funded it. Yeah, and that's, I mean, that's just like, it's not limited to. Or it's limited to who can create it, but it's like, it's pretty elastic, and then there are multiple funding mechanisms.
It's a pretty cool concept. It's very new.
Well, and our CPA is hopefully gonna be, doing one, but a sale, like 2/3 sales tax, they did, it's not gonna, they did a survey, and it's not gonna happen. It would have to be a citizens-based initiative, and we'll just, but there are other ways to source the funding, so. All right.
Just if I can share on that, from what I understand, the bill language it is tied somewhat to the earlier legislation that allowed cities to establish enhanced infrastructure financing districts. And I think it's an area where we may want to consider to seek opportunities for is establishing in the use acronym EIFD. I see that Santa Rosa is working on establishing one in their former redevelopment area, and I think as a concept, the EIFD could, as part of infrastructure, also look at investing in resilient measures, and those can be, I think we talked about last time, upgrading the storm drains to handle larger storm events, because that's going to be critical to reducing flooding from some of the atmospheric rivers, for example. So anyways, I think a little homework that we need to do is to look at this and
Where can we apply some of,
I mean, we have tremendous infrastructure needs as it is, and if we can work to establish a district, it could be a way to start generating some of that tax increment that can be, help fund some of our unfunded infrastructure needs, which could include some of the
Climate
addressing
resiliency,
climate
yeah.
resiliency is part of that, as we've talked about, streets, storm drains, lighting, et cetera.
Water treatment,
Recycled
recycled water,
and
et cetera.
pedestrian connection, all, the list of all the things that we want. is-
Laundry list.
Right.
3 pages, yeah. Capital improvement. I don't remember exactly, but it's not small.
So, one of the staff,
Pictures.
we'll do a little bit more homework. There is some things that would ultimately need to come back to council. To establish the EFID, resolution of intent. Ultimately, a public financing authority resolution. And we'll have to look at the boundaries of the former redevelopment area and see where it might make sense and come back with some recommendations.
Okay.
Because I think we can fulfill some of the goals that were identified in that, but the EIFD could, it's a way of trying to bring back redevelopment.
Right.
It's a heavy lift, honestly, but I don't think it's so heavy that we can't do it.
Mhm.
If we can start, the sooner we start, the more you start
Exactly. Yeah,
developing that increment.
right. And I think we just have to identify those places that where there's a real need and see what's eligible under the umbrella. So,
Right.
okay, I look forward to that. Great. So tell me about the dog park, folks.
Out to bid,
On,
we had,
up to bid, all right.
only one contractor showed up for our mandatory walkthrough, but it's a local person that we know and like, so we're waiting for his bid and.
Response and great, cool.
And just concurrently, we provided all the documentation that was required for the license agreement with Smart to the Smart staff. From what I understand, they have everything that is needed for that agreement. I'm not sure if they were gonna place it on the board for approval or not.
I'll have to look at the agenda.
But we wanna, obviously, our goal is, once we receive the bid and plan to award the bid, to bring that to council for award of bid, and start scheduling construction.
It's
But-
probably under Eddie's. I'm sure you can.
Well, I just need to follow up and check in with Smart where they are, because we wanna actually, we wanna have the license agreement executed, ready to go, so.
While we're out there.
Okay.
But any work you might be able to do with your position as a board member, move that forward.
I'm not seeing it on this week's agenda, which I'm missing that meeting. It's why I really hadn't.
Was it on any other agenda, just the
Yeah,
idea of
I
it?
think so.
Maybe Eddie's.
Yeah, I think Eddie, well, I mean, you can always call Eddie or Tom.
Yeah.
Just call Tom and see where it's at. You're getting it back. Do you have his direct, Tom's direct number, David?
I don't.
I'll send it.
Okay.
Yeah, it's Tom Lyons at Smart. I would just call him. Okay, good. Number 10, update on benches at park trails.
Hector.
Yes, yeah, so we can,
Awesome, look great.
I'm still here, yeah, no, so we completed that bench installation near the trailhead entrance there by Porterfield Creek. And my plan is in the near future to rehabilitate all the benches we removed from the plaza and come up with a plan to install those throughout our parks and perhaps up there at the Porterfield Creek Preserve.
No,
So,
that sounds great. Yeah, that's a great plan.
We got him.
You've got him, if you got him, you can use them.
Just need some new
Pull it up by the water tower.
Yeah,
There's a nice view up there.
There is one.
Well, but yeah, it'd be great if it was on the top.
Oh, that's true.
Yeah.
yeah, those are good rainy day projects that
Yeah,
Yeah,
think.
nice flat spot there too.
no, it's a beautiful view up there.
Yeah.
All right, David, I'm sending you his information, so.
Thanks, Hector.
Thank you, Hector. That's great. I'm looking forward to it. I haven't been up this week, but when I get back, hopefully next week, I'll take a little stroll around but that one bench that's right by the sidewalk, that's already like getting so much traffic. It's great. People are
Yeah, I didn't know, I noticed the other day, I didn't notice how long it's been there, but always been there.
No, it looks like it's always been there.
Yeah.
Yeah, the guys, I gotta give credit to my staff there. They really did a good job with it. They pressure washed it, they painted it, they replaced the wood on it. And it really looks nice.
It looks beautiful. No, it does. It looks like it's kind of always been there.
Yeah.
So. It's already getting used. I mean, I'm like, I've been only been there like a month. So.
I've been trying to get my butt back in gear, so I haven't been doing it for very, so maybe the first day I was out there, was the first day it was there.
Yeah, that could be. No, that could be. It's only been up there for about a month, so it just looks really great. So thanks so much for doing that.
You're welcome.
All right. So benches, that's it, benches, and then update on Great River Trail. Yeah, I'm just heading up to Eureka. We're interviewing general or executive directors on Thursday, and we've got plenty of applicants. It'll be all day, so I won't be touring Shark Park on Thursday, but I'm gonna try to do it Friday. I'll try to do it Friday morning because then my Cal Cities meeting doesn't start till like 1 o'clock, so I'll have the morning. And I'm staying in Eureka, so I'll just go.
Meet it, both the.
You know what, my God, I could have been up and back in two different weeks. I don't know how it just, I was like, oh my gosh, I can't. Well, this start. It's in your showers. Convenient, so I'm staying, I'm in Eureka. Right near it's not City Hall, it's a county building where we're having closed session and interviews and stuff. And then on Friday, yeah, I'll go around and tour the murals and do the park and stuff and take some pictures of we'll take a look at what state of repair of the utility boxes are after 5 years. And then the Cal Cities meetings in Fortuna. So it's just like, it's like 15 minutes down the road.
That's nice.
Yeah, it pretty convenient. It could have been worse.
Yes.
Could have been Fort Bragg, any research.
It was Fresno.
Could have been, well, no, I'm not on that one yet,
Yeah.
so let's keep that under control. No, but I had planned on skipping the SMART meeting tomorrow. Yeah, is that tomorrow? Yeah, and I told them like weeks ago, it's like, I'm gonna be in the car, and I'm not driving to Petaluma and then driving to Eureka, yeah, they were like, no, we don't want you doing that either, so I think they want me to help hire a really good, Great River Trail executive director, because they're gonna be working together a lot on stuff, so. That's probably that bigger good one, that's the priority, so. Yeah, that's all I have on Great River Trail, that's mostly, and then, but they've mostly completed their outreach that was active because they received grant funding for, outreach from like Hopland to Arcata, so they've mostly completed that public outreach with the consultants, and then they've also done some online meetings for public input. And it's interesting, so plenty of people from Sonoma County have been hopping on those online meetings and being like, when did we get our trail? So yeah, and so part of SMART outreach will be saying, well, we actually have the right of way to the Sonoma Mendocino border.
Yeah.
And yeah, so that's what, so we're moving right along. And then also they're doing a ton of wayfinding work at SMART, and as is Great Redwood Trail as kind of part of the public outreach that they have been doing, and we're going to have to, kind of coalesce those, and then we want to make sure that any wayfinding that maybe we do in town kind of syncs up. So yeah, that's it for Great Redwood Trail. Any questions on that, or questions I don't know the answer to? Okay, if not, recreation programming, is that?
Yeah, probably the big update here is we've hired Civic Rec, and we've been going through training, Mike, Hector, Susie, and I. And this is gonna be the software that's gonna be the interface for people signing up for classes.
Is that the one Kaya uses, or?
I don't know, it's a pretty basic
But
one, it's a very affordable one, just to see if,
Yeah.
how it works, and it was the best price, and we already have Civic Plus for our website, so it's all integrated.
Yeah.
And so far, it seems like it's definitely gonna do what we want.
Yeah.
Mike's kind of leading that charge, and Hector's been there too, so.
It's pretty simple. It's gonna be pretty simple to use once we get it going, I think.
Okay.
You'll be able to reserve picnic areas, and then when we get instructors and classes, it's gonna handle all that, catalog, the whole thing.
Cool.
Yeah.
I know, I use it on City of Hillsburg, and I use that city, my client, works a lot with City of Ukiah, so I have to link up with their system. It's pretty cool.
Guys,
They're just like,
good record.
it always comes down to like, it's like, would you please update your website and update your content so that we could actually advertise this event? But yeah, you're as good as the module, but you're really only as good as how well it's staffed and updated, so, you know.
So true.
Can't wait to see that. And then I think that's it for standing items. That's a good update. And future agenda items, I had a question, so do we have an update on? We reached out to the school district on potential for a pool. I know I brought it up to Jenny recently when I was talking with her.
We have not, we were actually developing the agenda for the meeting on Monday. I know the school district superintendent is still kind of getting up to speed.
Settling in,
Yeah.
yeah. Hey, let's throw a pool at him, right?
Build that pool yet?
Perfect time.
Because, so the city of Sonoma has their splash, what they call, I think they call it splash, and then it's their rec pool. And they did it in conjunction with the Sonoma Valley School District, and they started the process in like 2014. It opened in 2022, because that's how long it takes. I know, but they did it in, the parties came to the conclusion that neither of them had the full resources to do it on their own, and so they really did come together and so, yeah, that might be, you know, just as we have a local example of a school district and a city coming together on it, and to do a capital project like that, it might be something worth bringing up. Great, that was my future agenda item, so let me know what, they may say, no, you can't do that. That's fine. But I know Jenny's a water polo player, so we have it in there. And unless there's anything else for future agenda items, oh, I had one more thing with that. I caught wind of the county flood control meeting, and I don't think Cloverdale is necessarily represented, where we may be represented by West Yost at this. Or do you recall getting an invitation?
Yeah, I did. I didn't get a meeting invite.
You didn't get a meeting invite?
But I did get, they're kicking off a planning effort to start looking at, developing a plan around, I think, probably sediment management. And so I think it's just getting kickstarted. So I'll let me follow up on that.
Yeah. Well, it just kind of came to mind that we have really two risks. Well, we have, one foreseen risk with our storm drains. If we run into problems with that, we, the potential of flooding in downtown, but we also have the gravel situation at the Rush River, which is already impacted wells and flooded the airport. So I would imagine it would be important to be part of any of those discussions. I think what they're trying to do is just kind of come up with a master plan, so that everybody knows what everybody else is doing, so that they can, co-apply. Yeah, or we know what our actual, risk is countywide. So, yeah, all right. Let me know how that goes. And unless there is anything else, is there anything else for good of the order?
Nope.
All right, well then, thanks everybody for coming. I'll try to make sure my calendar reflects that. And everybody, thanks for all your hard work, everything you do, and meeting is adjourned.